Welcome everybody. Here we're certainly excited about the challenge of another season. This team obviously has a lot to prove, um, and I think the issue with any team is, you don't win with just talent. To be successful, there has to be a strong level of commitment by, everybody in the organization, coaches, players. Because successful teams are successful because they have sort of a unified level of commitment. Everybody's got the same goals and aspirations for what they want for the team. And then there's always the question of, what do you want? What are you willing to do to get it? How are you going to respond when things don't go your way? So that's kind of the challenge with every team. And with this team, because we've got a lot of new faces, especially on offense, I think we're sort of take it one step at a time. I think if you're climbing a mountain, that's kind of how you got to focus. The only way you're going to get to the top is one step at a time. So we're focused on what we need to do today to try to help our team get better, to try to, create this mindset and the values and principles of the organization and how people buy into it. So that's sort of, where we are right now. A couple things I'd like to mention is, Coach Bobby Bowden's passing is something that really is saddens all of college football. This guy was probably the greatest ambassador, at least in my view, or one of the great ambassadors of all time. Because he coached, he had success coaching, but he was also one of the greatest people and set an outstanding example for everyone in our profession in terms of you don't have to dislike somebody, you don't have to discredit somebody that you're competing against, that your example of being a good person is, something that can help us all professionally. He wasn't always just about him. He was always about helping other people. And our thoughts and prayers go out to his family and friends. This is a very sad time for all of us. But, Coach Bowden leaves a legacy that a lot of us can continue to learn from and grow from, and something that will never be forgotten. So really sorry for him and his family, and our thoughts and prayers are with them. A-Rod, spoke to the team on Friday night. I think he did, a great job of, talking about being successful as a Yankee when they won the championship in 2009, and how everything was so different, in 2010 when they weren't able to repeat, even though in his mind they had a better team. And, he made an interesting, and he talked about it wasn't the distractions, it was the attractions, that everybody got more attention. Everybody had more people pulling at them, whether it was to speak at banquets or whatever. So it made it much more difficult to focus on the things that you needed to focus on to be the best player that you can be. And, to be the best teammate that you can be. And, the disease of me is always something, it's a Pat Riley quote that, how much credit do I want relative to how much I'm willing to invest in, the team being successful. So it was kind of interesting and certainly fit, our profile and our situation of where we are. As a successful organization coming off a successful year, and everybody understanding that what we did last year will have absolutely nothing to do with, how we perform and how we prepare this year. In fact, everyone that we play will be their target because we were successful a year ago. So everybody has to understand the level of commitment that it takes to, sort of be able to accept those challenges in a positive way. From an injury standpoint, I think LeBron Ray has a pretty significant growing injury that he kind of got toward the end of the summer that may keep him out for a couple weeks. But hopefully, we'll get him back and he'll be confident in his ability to play. And we'll just have to wait and see day to day how that goes.
Okay, with that, guys, we'll get started with Cecil. Go ahead, Cecil.
Coach, good morning. If I could follow up on two more players who missed the spring. Trey Sanders, how has he recovered from the auto accident, and Malachi Moore?
Both of those players are participating on a daily basis. Trey Sanders, I think, is getting very close to being 100%. The issue always with a player who has a significant injury like he had is, how's he going to respond when he actually starts having to play football and gets hit and has to hit other people? That's an unknown that we'll just have to wait and see. Because we've only been in shorts and helmets so far, so we've had very limited contact. But we're pleased with his progress. I'm pleased with his attitude. I see his burst and acceleration coming back, and he's been able to do it and repeat it on a day-to-day basis without having issue. Malachi Moore is practiced each and every day so far. He did all summer long. So we're hopeful that he won't have any injuries. But as we all know, those of us, including me, that have had, some issues with their back, that sometimes these things reoccur with really sometimes hard to figure what the reason for this is. What did I do? How did it happen? Why is it hurting again? So you never know about that part of it. But so far, he's done a really, really good job.
Okay, we'll go to Michael Casagrande. Michael, go ahead.
With the soft shell helmets we saw at practice the other day, what went into getting those, and what kind of impact have you guys seen from those so far?
Well, we haven't done a whole lot of hitting so far, but there's some scientific evidence that those soft shell impact crowns are effective, have been effective in some NFL teams using them. So anything that we think can help protect our players is certainly something that we want to do. We don't have enough information right now to tell you that they've made a great impact, but we certainly think that it's something significant that does protect the players in a better way.
We will go to John Zener with the AP.
Good morning, Coach. What's the key to making it work when you're hiring former head coaches who are kind of used to doing things their own way, being the boss?
Well, I think that one of the first sort of steps in us being a team is that everybody has to buy into the principles and values of the team and the level of commitment and the standard that we want to try to achieve. And so everybody has to buy in and make a commitment to those things. And when I said, earlier, coaches and players alike, that's exactly what I mean. And, so far that's not been a problem. Those coaches have worked out very, very well. They've worked hard to try to do things the way we do them at Bama. And I wouldn't think that any players, really recognize anything different from at least a mindset of how we try to do things, how we want to do things, how we try to hold people accountable to do things the right way, and how they've tried to work hard to implement that.
Okay, we'll go to Charlie Potter. Go ahead, Charlie.
Hey, Coach. Just want to ask you about Bill O'Brien. Now that you've seen him in practice and in meetings, just what have your impressions been of him up to this point?
Yeah, I think Bill's done a really good job. First off, he's a good teacher. And, I think when you're a good coach, you're a good coach all the time, whether we're in camp with, 7th and 8th grade kids, playing quarterback or defensive back or whatever it is, you're trying to coach those guys to be better, just like you would our own players. And I see that in everything that he's done since he's been here. I think the players have responded well to the coaches on offense. And, so I think there's nothing but positives. Now, we haven't been through a game yet together, and I think all these things are sort of a work in progress as you go, as they find out what your expectation is and then how they respond to it. But so far, they've responded in a positive way to each and everything we've asked them to do.
Okay, we'll go to Nick Kelly with the Tuscaloosa News. Go ahead, Nick.
Nick, how have you seen Brian Robinson over his time here with you guys just grow and change?
Well, B-Rob has always been a hard worker. He's always been a tough guy. He's really shown a lot of perseverance in doing those things and not getting tremendous reward for it, because he's never really had an opportunity to be the man, so to speak, at the running back position to this point. But I think based on what he's invested in the program, what he's done, the production that he's had when he has played, he certainly deserves that opportunity. And I think he's taking advantage of it right now.
We'll go to Aaron Suttles with The Athletic.
After a pretty promising freshman season, what's the next step for Will Anderson and in his development as a player?
Well, I think every player has things that they can work on to improve. I think that, Will was very productive last year because he's a good pass rusher and he's an unselfish player. He doesn't get pushed by the quarterback trying to make a sack, and that has a negative impact on that play on defense. When it comes to defending the other team, because now we're playing with 10, I think he has a better understanding. And I think this is probably the key for him to continue to develop of the overall system. Last year as a freshman, early on, especially in the first half of the season, the young players that we had playing, including Will, I don't think they had a total grasp of what the expectation was for them to contribute to the defense in a positive way, even though he had a tremendous impact. But that impact grew as the season went on. And I think because of knowledge and experience, that's going to continue to happen in the future. And we're pleased with the progress that he made. He's the kind of person that he's not satisfied, with where he is. He works hard every day and he's always trying to get better. And, I love, working with this guy. I think he sets a great example for everybody else on our team.
Go to Bruce Feldman with Fox.
Hey, Coach, have you ever been around a guy as big as Evan Neal at 6'7", 350, 360, who has that kind of athleticism? And what is it about him that really kind of, seeing him day to day, that impresses you most?
Well, when you coach in the NFL, you see guys like that on occasion, and there we had a few through the years. But Evan is very unique in terms of he has great size, he's got great athleticism, but I think even most importantly, he's a hard worker. He has a lot of goals and aspirations for how good he wants to be, what his expectation is. He's a bit of a perfectionist in terms of, how he goes about things, but he's also got good intangibles. He plays with really good toughness. He's got mental toughness. He's, he works hard to get in shape. He spent a lot of time, getting his body right. Because he used to be even bigger than he is now, but now he can sustain better. So this guy is very assignment conscious. He doesn't make a lot of mental errors. So this guy does just about everything that you would like for the best players on your team to do, to set a good example for other players. And he has certainly, done an outstanding job of that. And, we moved him over to left tackle, which we think is a really natural position for him. And he's done really well there so far.
Okay, we got two more. We'll start with Ryan Hennessy.
Coach Bowden is a big staple, especially here in Alabama. What was something that you remember of those Florida State teams, and what was your relationship with him one-on-one, and did you kind of pick his brain throughout the years as a coach?
Well, first of all, I think everybody knows this story, but I think it's still worth, telling, because there's not very many people in the world that would have that kind of compassion for somebody else. When Coach Bowden was an assistant coach at West Virginia University, and I think Jim Carlin was the head coach, he kind of recruited the area that I grew up in West Virginia, which was pretty rural. And, I think we had 3 players from my era that played at West Virginia University that were really good players and all ended up making All-American. that Coach Bowden recruited that my dad actually coached in Pop Warner. So they knew each other much better than I knew Coach Bowden as a high school player growing up. But my first year of being a graduate assistant when my father passed away, and I was at Kent State being a graduate assistant for Don James. And, one day the phone rings and it's Coach Bowden. And, he says, I know your father passed away. I know your mom might be struggling. If you feel like you need to come closer to home, because Morgantown was like 25 miles from where I grew up, I have a job for you here if you need to do that. So I was like, wow, this guy's the head coach at West Virginia University, and has that much compassion for my family and our situation and our circumstance and my mother. Not very many people would do something like that. So, but I think that was a reflection of what kind of person he was. I've always tried to emulate Coach Bowden in terms of the class that he represented his organization with. Seldom said a bad word about anybody. Was always very kind and upbeat to everybody that he ever met, and was always that way with me. And I would talk to him on occasion about things that I had questioned about professionally. And there's probably not many in this profession that I have more respect for than Coach Bowden, not only as a coach, not only what he sort of accomplished on the field, but the kind of person he was, the kind of character he had, and the class that he sort of exemplified as a college football coach.
Okay, thanks, Coach. We will finish up with David Hale.
Hey, Nick, Jahleel Billingsley is a guy who you used more and more as the season seemed to go along last year. I'm curious how you feel like his skill set might fit into what you guys want to do offensively this year. And what is it you're still hoping to see from him this preseason in terms of growth and then kind of getting to where you think he can be given that skill set?
Well, I think that has a lot to do with his level of commitment that I talked about before in terms of doing the right things, developing as a player. He does have a lot of ability. He can be a positive contributor on the team, but he's also got to buy into the, principles and values of the team and be a good teammate and do the things that everyone else in the organization does so that he has the respect of his teammates. And we're certainly trying to help him do that. And hopefully, he'll be back out there with us in a few days. And we'll see how that all develops.
All right, Coach, thanks for your time.
All right. Thank you.